From the cities of Milan and Zurich, and 225 miles away from the Matterhorn, sits the charming and scenic village of St.Moritz, Switzerland, where today it is a picture-perfect day for the final day of competition on the Eberspecher Luge World Cup. Hi again, everyone. I'm Tim Singer. We're getting ready for the Olympic Games. Before we land there, we have one more run of women's singles competition here in both St.Moritz and Celerina, Switzerland. That's right, this track is so long it starts in one town and ends in another. There's a look at the specs. There's your little animated run down the track. It is the only natural track, meaning it has construction, but it does not have artificial refrigeration. It's an entirely different predicament for these athletes in these conditions. As for those athletes, run number one earlier today, Madeline Egla, five-time winner this year on the World Cup, is in third place. Alina Vitola, proving that last year's victory here was no fluke. She sits in second. And Natalie Geisenberger, looking for her first win of the year. You have to go back to 2008 to find the last season that Natalie did not win at least one race other than the year she took off. She will be the last to go. She's the first run leader. Domolatska will be the first to go, and we will count them from 28 down to 1. Once again, I'm pleased to introduce my broadcast partner for the final time this season from Team Canada, a long-time World Cup competitor and Olympic medalist, Sam Edney. Sam, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks. Good to be back here.
We've got run number 2 here. The crystal, the Joska crystal, goes to the World Cup winner. That'll be in about an hour. The race is between Germany's Julia Tobitz and Madeline Egla of Austria. But Tobitz has a pretty good lead. We'll see how that unfolds, but here are the little sub-stories leading up, starting with Poland's Klaudia Domolatska. This is her second World Cup start this year in women's singles, a couple of more in the team relay, as she fills in the booties of a couple of veterans who retired for Poland, Eva Kuls and Natalie Wojciechezin, as Klaudia heads to her first Olympic Games.
And already off the start, just a much better run. She had that issue right before Horseshoe on the first run that just took her right out of any sort of contention for a decent first run time. So this will give us a really good idea now, if she's clean for the rest of the way down, where she could have stood with run 1.
Hey, if you're up early watching, thanks for joining us. Worldwide coverage on OlympicChannel.com. Speaking of .coms, you can find us, and we'd love to hear from you. Email us at luge.announcer@gmail.com. You can also tweet us at lugeannouncer. We'd love to hear your comments, your insights, your criticisms, and your Olympic picks, as that woman right there, Natalie Geisenberger, appears to be limping a little bit, but it doesn't prevent her from a pretty good snag of the volleyball.
Much better run there for Klaudia, and right away off the bat you can see a bit improved her time by about almost a second and a half. So that's that issue right at the start, third corner in that she had on the first run, and it just shows where she could have been still off the pace, but definitely a much improved run and a good way to leave St. Moritz.
Here's Anna Chesakova, World Cup debut, and she was not in 28th place, she was in 27th place, so that is saying something as she paddles into the Nash and Dixon combination, named for the two British bobsledders who won gold at the 1964 Winter Olympics in Innsbruck. The history and tradition here in St. Moritz, it cannot be overstated, Sam. They revel in their sledding sports, perhaps unlike anywhere else. I mean, Königssee is the home of luge, the unofficial home of luge, but St. Moritz is the unofficial home of all sledding sports.
It really is, and to me it has such a storied history of the Olympics as well, right? And that's where you sort of feel like the Olympics has got to come back here at some point just to get that again. And they held the youth Olympics. Well, they part of the Youth Olympics.
That's right, 2 years ago here in St. Moritz.
Which was fantastic, but
Claudia, I love it. I love it. A little self-analysis. Thumbs up, I'm okay. Thumbs down, not a good run, not a good day. But she's off to the Olympic Games, and this woman is off to the leader zone.
It'd be pretty cool to have a couple curves named after you, though. I wish that was something that could happen.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because they're rebuilding that track in Cortina d'Ampezzo for the 2026 Olympics as we get a look at Juliana Tonitska from the Ukraine. 26th place after run number 1. And that old track in Cortina also honored a couple of former athletes, I believe. And you have a Benham's Bend in Lake Placid. I'm sure if we think hard about it, we can find a few others. But as we mentioned in run number 1, those are sometimes names more romantic to journalists and bobsled historians than they are to the athletes themselves.
Yeah, there's sections. Placid, I knew of the Gasper pad, Bob Gasper, a former Canadian doubles athlete.
That's right. Yeah, he used to team with Andre Benoit.
Yep, that's right. Andre was my first junior national team coach. So
there's Luder's Loop, or at least there was for a while in Whistler, wasn't there?
Yep, yeah, curve 7, still called, still referenced Luder's Loop.
Okay, good run here for Juliana Tonitska, who broke onto the World Cup last year as a 17-year-old. 150.834. She will not be one of the 2 Ukrainian women heading to Beijing, but we expect we will see Tonitska next year and for many seasons to come with this continually rebuilding and improving program from Ukraine.
A good run there, and position-wise, you can see the heads up a bit there, going through that high-speed section down now in the lower section.
Okay, we have our first prediction coming in from who else but Ken Childs, who knows his sliding sports from his excellent website, slidingonice.com. And for women, at least, here are the picks, Sam. Geisenberger, Egla, Sweeney. He's waving a bit of a patriotic flag on that one, as he is doing in his men's picks as well. But note Julia Tobitz, Ken.
That's big. That's bold, but you gotta appreciate it.
Yeah. What fun would Olympic picks be without some sort of surprise out of left field, right? Either an omission or an unknown.
Yeah, 4 runs can be a big. It can change things drastically, and a track that, again, we're talking, I think, 35-ish. I mean, maybe 40 runs
30
total. What is it? Yeah.
Oh, that they've taken?
That they've taken, yeah.
In Beijing? Yeah, maybe. That's right. The 2 weeks they had there before the test event. But someone was writing, I think Sandy Caligiuri was writing today in his report from yesterday that it'll be equally non-access or something like that. Pretty much no one had a chance to get much time in Beijing. Good run here for Smaha as she moves into the lead, a 2-heat combined time of 150.408. And that's the second thumbs up, thumbs down review we've gotten in 3 sleds.
It must be a thing, a European thing, because I'm yeah, it's right.
Okay, continuing on here, Sam. Ken's picks for the men: Locke, Mazder, and Apriots. Again, a little bit of a patriotic flag being waved there, but you can never count out Felix. And Christers, of course, has been very strong recently.
Yeah, I would say that's good picks in there. Mazder can pull one out if he's feeling confident, and Dominic. I think Dominic's going to be in there, fueled by that. I think it was like thousandths of a second that he missed the podium in Pyeongchang, so I think that's fresh of mind for him still.
Katerina Simanikova on course. Little peek up through this slow combination of Nash and Dixon, and now into the big sweeping left-hand turn horseshoe, one of the highest corners, widest corners in the world.
interesting to hear that this track, due to the lack of artificial refrigeration, that this is one of the tracks that actually speeds up throughout a race. Has the tendency to, just based on the temperature changes, and shaded corners will actually hold that cold really well, and actually the cold comes through the ice better than almost some artificial tracks. It's pretty interesting.
Second place time right now for the Slovakian. They say, and I've covered a lot of skeleton and bobsled races where it very much is the case here, Sam, that when the sun comes out, ironically, it actually makes the track faster.
Yeah, it's opposite almost of everything we're used to with the artificial tracks, which is pretty neat. Horseshoe there, the only corner that actually has a foundation to it, right? If you see the photos of it in the summer, there's a brick, basically looks like a brick wall.
That's right. Not quite sure how to describe that slow-mo replay. Now Summer Britcher, this is really an opportunity for the top American, 5-time World Cup winner, to get some practice in. She is nursing a broken finger for a few weeks now. You'll see her paddle with her knuckles. That's why the spikes were on that side of the gloves. And that's going to cost her pretty much the rest of the way down, Sam. Do they make gloves like that, or did this have to be custom redone?
I'm guessing they probably adapted some of the finger spikes that they would normally use, and they just probably flatten them off and put them on. Or they manufactured something new. Who knows what the US did. It'd be good to see a close-up of them. But strong start for Summer with the knuckle spikes, 3.768, which is 0.04 faster than her first run. She had that little slip on the handles, which can happen sometimes, and just looking more confident this run for sure. Head up a little bit there, pushing now for position.
Can she find the green here on the final few curves? Martineau to Portago to the finish line. Second place right now, 0.03 of a second behind Shmaha of Ukraine. Summer Britcher's season is done now on the World Cup. By her own admission, I'm sure it was a highly frustrating and forgettable one. She did have one podium, which outside of the team relay was the only podium for the United States this season.
Definitely she'll be looking to be in as close to full form for Beijing, but even with that, she'll push through anything. I'm sure Summer's one tough competitor, and she'll be looking to be at her best in Beijing.
Ashley Farquharson received the honor of being the third American named to the Olympic team, and she did it with pretty steady results from start to finish. Nothing phenomenal, but she equaled her career best with an 8th significantly on the track in China the opening weekend. At about 0.06 of a second lead on Shmaha entering the run, Sam. Let's see what this split reveals. 0.07 now.
Looking good through this section here. A little bit of a waiver there.
Even without a lot of spectators here due to the pandemic, we should have our audio guy pumping in some crowd noise because this PA announcer, he is just blasting me away. Okay, to the finish, Farquharson moved from red or green to red, and she stayed just in the red by 0.08 of a second behind Shmaha, who showed some sincere excitement down there at the bottom.
Yeah, that's great. Probably a fantastic result for Elena, and yeah, it's just going to show, I think, the Ukrainians are usually, I think, risking it a bit more is what I want to say, kind of the conservative way of saying that they're on the edge all the time, but it's going to pay off here, because I know St. Moritz is not a difficult track to drive, and that's a bit of an issue there for Ashley, right? So that would be where she lost a lot of that time. I must have been looking away at that second when I saw that, but that would cause that drop behind for sure, Elena.
One Ukrainian, Elena, has the lead. Another one is grabbing the handles at Monty's Bolt. This is Elena Stetchkin, and the curve Monty's Bolt honors the great Eugenia Monty, an Olympic gold medalist, multi-gold medalist in the sport of bobsleigh, who loaned a bolt from his sled. I believe it was to the Canadians, Sam, who won unexpected gold at the 1964 Olympics in four-man.
Crazy.
Vic Emery was the name of that pilot.
Yep. This is looking good. A little internal competition is good for the team. They build up for the games.
0.2 of a second lead on her teammate right now. Really solid run going. Do you like these lines?
This is looking good. Really solid right now. And I think they were a bit perplexed. Definitely the coach on the first run was wondering where the speed was. And I think the Ukrainians maybe made some slight adjustments.
And the speed, to be exact,
nice.
in MPH is 78.1 miles per hour. Kilometers, that was in the 120s. Yeah, 125.7.
0.4 faster than her first run. So much, I think probably a much better run for Elena number 2 from Ukraine, Stetskiv.
8 have come down, 20 still remain here in run number 2 as we count them down to Natalie Geisenberger. The Ukrainians are in the top 2 spots. The Americans are in the next 2. Now McKenna Hodgson from Calgary, a first-time Olympic qualifier. And it gives us an opportunity, really, with our lone Canadian in today's race to give a nice send-off, Sam, as she has issues there at the start ramp, to Wolfgang Staudinger, long-time coach for Team Canada, who brought that program from respectability to excellence. Would that be putting it well?
Yeah, it's you know, Wolf basically, he gave our program the belief to be on the podium. And that was, you know, and he stuck to it and he made it happen and he gave us kind of all the tools we needed. So our program, you know, owes Wolf a ton just for giving us that belief and that focus. And it's an end of an era for sure. So.
Very well put. As Hodgkins nears the finish line here, Hodgson of the Canada rather, with a second place time of 55.084. And one final word on Wolfie. One thing I always appreciated as a journalist, Sam, is that of all of the people I dealt with, he rarely sugarcoated things. If he was unhappy about something, he told me that. And he didn't care if it was going to come back and bite him.
Yeah, it was the same, you know, same attitude with the athletes and with the program. It was a breath of fresh air. And there's a, you know, tough one for McKenna there. Good first run and second run, a little bit of a waiver there at the start, which adds up for sure. That's why you'll see a drop behind Elena there.
Lisa Schulte, 8th place in the World Cup standings in what we would call a breakout year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 top 10 results this year, including her first ever podium. That was in Beijing.
Let's see, I think curious to see how the Austrians sort of respond to, I'd say, a bit of a first run, a bit of some times they weren't thrilled with, maybe some small adjustments to the sled.
Yeah, they had some adjustments to make. Madeline Egla is in 3rd place for Austria in her pursuit of the World Cup overall. Nice run going here.
Yeah, really good run and just compact. And you can see the head is staying. It's a little bit high for what I'd be a bit picky with it there. She pushed for it down in the final corners. But I'd say it's, you know, that consistent position. I've said it all year long. It's really valuable. Not having the head going up and down or the feet moving around. She was really solid with her position the entire way.
54.815 for the run. And that compares favorably, about 15 hundredths faster than her first heat. More importantly, at 149.816, Schulte takes the overall lead, still early in run number 2. Quickly putting a wrap on Ken's predictions. In doubles, Ken is selecting Olympic gold medal to go to Sheiks and Sheiks, which would be an emotional and fitting cap on their career. Agert and Benniken getting silver, missing out on their elusive gold again. And Bots and Pluma of Latvia, the surprise bronze medal winners. And no love for Stoy Kohler or the Tobys on that one. But again, what would Olympic picks be without some surprises?
That's right. Anything can happen, which is the great thing of the games. All that added pressure, the hype, all the uncertainty that's circulating around these athletes and these programs right now. Just it's a strange time, hearing from some of the athletes on the Canadian team. It just feels so different going into the Olympics this year compared to previous Olympic Games. So you just got to feel for the athletes, the circumstances they're competing under every week.
Hannah Prock in her 5th season on the World Cup. The first couple of years were abbreviated as she was finishing up school. She's making her way down to the Martineau curve. The World Championships in luge were held here in St. Moritz in the year 2000, and I remember watching Zilka Otto crash in Martineau all the way around to the finish here and still win gold at the Worlds. Some pretty good speed going on that day, as Prock has some good speed right now at 78.4 miles per hour, the fastest so far, and the result is a leading time ahead of her teammate, Lisa Schulte.
Much better run for Hannah, and it's got to feel good now. Focused transitions from the World Cup race now. It's prepping for the games, getting to Beijing safely. First of all, is kind of the priority, I think, for a lot of these athletes now, and then getting there, getting your sleds, getting set up, and then finding that groove for the games.
Okay, Sam, we get set for back-to-back a couple of World Cup winners, one-time winners. Sandra Robacha of Italy will be followed by American Emily Sweeney. All told, there are 12 racers out of the 28 today who have at least one World Cup victory. And if you're keeping track of those 12, Natalie Geisenberger, the first-run leader, has 51 career World Cup victories. That's an incredible stat.
It's incredible. She was so dominant for so many years there. It was sort of it was a given that she was going to win. She had to really screw up to not win it. It was just like an amazing time for her, and I think she's now I can see how it would be so tough for her to slide in these circumstances, and now with a daughter, and I just think it's great for her to at least give it one last go here.
Nice run by Zandra, whose season comes to an end right there with a 54.781. It's been a trying couple of years for Robacher, who's come back from injury. You got to give her credit. She was with the World Cup team all season, Sam, but in most of the weeks she raced on Friday's Nations Cup without the possibility of qualifying for the World Cup.
Yeah, it's been a tough go for her. She's been having those issues that have plagued her, that plague a lot of luge athletes, shoulder issues, and so she was having major issues with shoulders popping out. And I believe had surgery on both shoulders, if I'm not wrong. But it's good to see her coming back from that now, and hopefully, next quad being ready for home Olympic Games.
Well, here's a woman that has had shoulder, neck, wrist, back, other injuries, I'm sure. Emily Sweeney. She's really fought it hard the last several years, and she won a World Cup race a couple of years ago. She's been in podium position a couple of times this season. And to your point, Sam, it's been a trying season. Emily actually could not compete in the Russian races due to her military restrictions, but these athletes have had to deal with COVID, with testing. Ooh, she has a little problem there. They have to deal with equipment not showing up. It's just, I don't remember a more stressful year.
Yeah, it's been it's got to be tough for Emily, especially because I think even just you build that momentum off of one race and then you have to take 2 races off. You lose sort of that pressure that you feel around the racing during racing, and then having to get back into it and fight back for seeded races, and it's just been a challenging year for them. And that was a tough run. One of the biggest mistakes we've seen out of Horseshoe.
It was surprising, Sam, that she stayed in the green as long as she did, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think it showed that she had potential to be pretty quick, which is too bad for Emily. But again, just walk away with your head high and switch the focus towards the big show now. Here it just builds pressure, hangs on high late, and then you can see flops off and starts to skid right away. Does a good job managing it, but just I think that's such a big issue right away. That
trying to be more chill. Obviously, it didn't work.
Well, the World Cup season comes to an end for the United States, who will not take part in the relay a little later on today. Now, Kendia Afario, back from injury herself in 15th place after run number 1 for the Latvian, who had 2 podiums earlier this season in Russia.
This will be interesting to see if she can build up a bit of a buffer here and maybe crack into that top 12 or top 10.
Latvia never ceases to amaze me. They have such an incredible tradition with Olympic medals in all of the sliding sports. This is a small nation, but it should be noted back when there was a powerful Soviet Union sports machine, the sliding sports, of course, were based in what was then the Republic of Latvia. So therein lies the tradition.
This is a really nice run for Kendia. Looking really solid the whole way down.
54.497. That's nearly a half second faster than her first run, Sam. And looking at the split times or the finish times moving forward for the next 3 or 4, this could move her up. Potentially even into the top 10 after starting the run in 15th place.
Right away, you could see she looked much more confident on the sled, comfortable, and just I need to brush up on my Italian because
Latvian Kataviet. That's all I know. Hi, how are you?
It seems like they're very vocal coming off the sled. They're like the version of Chris Mazda, which I always appreciate.
Team Mog, the longtime fan club for Natalie and her brother when he was competing. They're on hand today to see their hometown hero, Natalie Mog, who finished 3rd in this World Cup race, her one and only podium to date. That was last season on the final day of the World Cup.
And no doubt she will be looking to throw a rundown and get into that top 10. End the season, World Cup season, on a high note here in front of the home crowd.
You know, while Natalie may train with Germany, which is a great assistance to her sliding, she's not funded by the German program, and she says it's a constant battle in a nation that loves sledding but doesn't necessarily have a luge dominating program. So she has to fund every year, and that's not easy.
And I hope to see the program grow, and I know that Nina Reitmeyer is doing a lot of work with the Swiss sliding program and getting the grassroots program started. So hopefully we see some athletes in a growing program, and this, right here.
Sure.
Having these World Cups back here in St. Moritz on a regular basis will help. Great to see that train.
The train, yeah.
Oh, it's such a good view.
Yeah, it's no doubt about that, Sam. And you competed against a couple of guys from Switzerland over the years, Hohenner and Reno Gili, and most notably Martina Kocher, who's a world champion in 2017 from Switzerland, or 2016 perhaps.
Yeah, they've had incredible athletes, and yeah, it's exactly what you said. They've had to, they have to kind of turn nothing into something, right? And they've been lucky to sort of ride with the Germans for a little bit of it, but they're definitely their own program, and they've had success over the years.
All right, on course now is Sigita Bergina. The first part of this course heading to Horseshoe runs alongside a road that heads from St.Moritz into the town of Celerina, as does the track, and as does the neighboring Cresta run. Two tracks side by side. Not since Lake Placid have we seen that at any venue. The old Lake Placid track.
The Cresta run is just purely tourist, though, is that?
Well, there's a Cresta Club, and let's be honest here, for about 120 years, that Cresta Club was men only. Talk about exclusive and elite. Now I believe they have opened it up, but you have to join the club to take a run. Yes, it is tourist, but they make you join the club.
Right, good.
You ask and I will answer.
It's good. The wealth of knowledge, Tim, it's fantastic.
Great run by Brezina. 0.08 of a second up on Natalie Mogg. So just like that, the Swiss athlete heads to the leader area. Now she heads out of the leader area, and Latvia sits in front. In fact, it's Latvia, Switzerland, Latvia, Italy, USA, the top 5, with still 15 sleds to come, or 12 rather.
Really nice run for Sigita there, and to me, it's just this is where we get into that tight group of time. So it's just going to be a challenge to to really climb the ladder at all. You're going to have to really throw down a special run.
Here's Nina Zugler, whose name backwards is Anine Relegaz. 12th place after run number 1. That's a meaningless statistic, but sometimes you just have to throw those out there. Nina on her way to her first Olympic Games. She's a half second behind Natalie Geisenberger in run number 1, but in a big bunch of athletes who could shift anywhere up to 3 or 4 positions.
Looks like a little bit of a hanging high, a little bit on horseshoe there. Similar, not as severe of an issue as we saw Emily Sweeney, but we'll see if that adds up in the bottom here. Whoa, big deficiency now. I don't think she'll be getting back in front of either Sigita or Natalie.
A couple of Italians still to come. Verena Hofer and Fetter will be coming down, but to the finish, a pretty forgettable final World Cup run for Nina Zugler, as she sits in 4th place at the moment, a half second or a quarter of a second behind that woman, Sigita Brezina of Latvia. I know you have not been here, Sam, in St.Moritz. Have you been to Switzerland?
We've just briefly passing through. I think we did spend maybe a full day in Bern, Switzerland one time, but that was
nice.
about it.
Beautiful country, very multicultural, especially right here in St. Moritz, where you have Italian-speaking citizens, and you have, of course, German-speaking language. More over in the western part of the country, French is a popular language. It's a popular tourist spot for the British, for the Russians. Yeah, it's a great feel here.
Oh, yeah.
On course now, Ekaterina Katnikova. Several paddles. So, she was close to the wall and still trying to get to the center of the track.
Yeah. And it's tough. You don't see really on that Nash little entry corner there. It for sure can push you down right in the middle of that corner if you're offline. Same issues trying to fight it around the end of horseshoe. So you must get a lot of pressure built up at the end of horseshoe. Probably just more of a challenge for the women, whereas the men have that height. It almost just wants to come off easily.
Brezina must have had a heck of a run, because Katnikova is falling further and further back with each split time. We've seen speeds approach 80 miles per hour today, over 90 miles an hour for the top 2 finishers yesterday, Kindle and Apolyods. A 54.583 4th place right now for the Russian, who finishes her World Cup. And it was a bit of a drop-off this year for Ekaterina Katnikova, as she will likely fall out of the top 10 when the points are tabulated at the end of this race.
This is that can see, look, she's fighting to get the sled off there. Bringing that lower leg is almost coming off the sled, and then she's having to make a big correction there before tree or telephone. So it's definitely a fight for Ekaterina there. That's where a lot of that time would go.
Natalie Mogg with her peeps down there at the finish, her fan club. Now Victoria Demchenko. As I mentioned in run number 1, we really haven't had a lot to say about Victoria this year, but once I say that, you look at the World Cup standings, she's in 6th place. She's had 3 top 5s, only 1 podium, a 3rd, but steady enough to really be respectable, and yet one more athlete that you can't ignore in Russia. Because Sam, when she's having a good day, Victoria's as good as anyone.
Absolutely. And just carries that same mentality that her dad used to race with, which is just she can be on it, and when she's on it, it's a force. So it's, I think, it's so determined by how her sled is set up. If she can handle it the whole way down, then she can be quick, and if it's you know, a bit of that fly or die mentality, then it's going to be tough.
1/10 of a second back, that's a little too much to make out here in Martineau-Portago combination, but she made most of it up, just quite not enough. 100th of a second into second place. Berzina moving into the top 10, which is a pretty good result for that young Latvian, the non-Olympic Latvian. That's her best finish of the year by a long shot for Sigita. So she'll think about that all summer.
Fantastic. It's just great to see how strong this young Latvian program is going to be in this next quad, and they've got everything they need. They've got a strong sled technology program. They've got one of the best tracks to train on and learn from, and starts. They've got that fantastic start facility. Great coaches. You know, athletes that I competed with are now staying around and the lead program, which is fantastic. Doing all the right things.
Anna Bierleiter is one of only 3 racers in women's singles this year that has had top 10 results every week of the season. She's in 3rd place in the overall. She's very much in danger of dropping out of the top 3, given the fact that Geisenberger is right behind her in 4th. But if she holds her spot here, it will be a perfect top 10 season for Bierleiter every race.
Little issue there in telephone. She had that little bump early, and it pushed her a little bit later into the corner. She had a much cleaner start there, which was that issue on the first run, and we'll see if she can carry the speed down to the bottom track. Nice lead going into the final 2.
Speed of 78.3 miles per hour to the finish. Anna Bierleiter does it. She does it convincingly, 1700s up. So no worse than 9th place for Anna Bierleiter. She will likely end up the season in 4th, and she'll head to the Olympics also in the discussion among the medalists. She won a race way back week number 2 in Sochi.
It is. It's so exciting to think of. I mean, any of these 8 sleds that are remaining and 9 with Anna right there, you know, any of these sleds can walk away with a medal, I feel like, at the games. It's just going to be incredible
and
to watch.
Let's face it, there's never an Olympics where a German woman doesn't at least end up on the podium, often on top of the podium. Really, the only times I can think of where the Germany did not capture gold, at least in the last 50 years, was back-to-back in 92 and 94, Austria and Italy. But there were Germans on the podium that year as well. Speaking of Italy, here's Andrea Fetter. Andy, the final Italian, or actually the second to last Italian in today's race. Hoffer's in 6th, Fetter's in 8th. She's generally pretty quick at the start, and she has the second fastest time here at 3.631.
Yeah, Andrea did a ton of work in the past couple of years just focusing on that start. It was one of her weak points a few years ago, and now comes out consistently one of the top sleds. And she fought it a bit there at the start. And big issues there, you know, forward, relatively speaking, but out of Horseshoe, it's giving quite a few sleds some issues, hanging on long in the corner.
Is that because of the speeds not being that fast that early? You have to be perfect?
I think it's got to be like, it's tough. I've never driven it, but just the way it looks like entry point is so important. You got to get that height, help it carry height a little bit, and then get it out. Once you start taking it out, really commit to it and get the sled off.
54.485, only the fourth fastest run of the heat. Still, all things considered, that's not bad this late in the run. This track has just stayed in excellent shape. And as Sandra Robacher and Armin Ziegler watch on, Vetter moves into second place with 7 remaining, so a guaranteed top 10 for the Italian.
There's a view lower down on the track. It's tough to say what corner it is. I want to say maybe Leap. Is that what it looks like?
Leap, yeah. I think that's a good call. They're the dignitaries down there at the bottom. President Einars Vergelis here for the World Cup finale. Former President Sepp Fent watching the action. Executive Director Christoph Schweiger. Meantime, back to the athletes. Elitsa, Teruma, 5, 6, 7 paddles settling down the center of the run. Let's see how this translates. 8 thousandths of a second back in the early going.
Quicker start compared to the first run, but she's gonna have to really have a perfect run here. Let's see how this exit Horseshoe goes. It got cut off early, the feed, but now behind a bit. Anna really had a great run, carried really strong speed through this upper section, and then really let it fly down on the bottom.
15 thousandths behind Bereiter.
Looking good, a little bit high there position-wise. The highest speed point of the track, you really want to be pushing for it.
Well, she has moved from red to green. That's a good sign, not just for her position as she moves into the lead, but upcoming her teammate, her young teammate, Elina Vitola, who's in second place after run number 1. So if there is uniformity in this sled setup, that's going to be good news for the last Latvian.
Just a good shot. Let's see how she, you got to really from that point on, drive it off. Nice, easy roll back. Missed that entry bump there, which Elisa does a pretty good job of it. That's where you can see the position heads up a little bit more than you'd like to see down in that high speed section.
You see some of the German contingent there watching the action. Chris Eisler, as they are applauding, showing their appreciation for everyone. And Elitsa waves back. Okay, here we go. Final 6 now. And out of the qualifying group, this is Verena Hofer. And Sam, we say it week in and week out. You may be out of that qualifying group and not a seeded athlete heading into the weekend, but if you happen to win that race, that speaks volumes, and Hofer has backed that up.
Absolutely. It's, for her, a big, going in a convincing win in the Nations Cup really helps you, and you can feel comfortable on tracks, and if you, right off the bat, first runs you feel really good, then you can start to really push it, and I'm guessing that's sort of the feeling that Verena, don't get that wrong, but she for sure just felt good this whole week on the track. A little bit of an issue there.
Verona would be a city in Italy,
right,
where I believe Shakespeare spent a fair amount of time, or wrote about at least.
Losing more time here, so could be a bit of some of those nerves creeping in, saying, oh, I'm in, possibly a career best position.
Yeah, 1700s back. Yeah, she could fall 2 or 3 spots back here, as she does. 149.111, stays in the top 10, but just barely.
Still a good result, and for her to carry that now into the games is important.
In fact, it will be her best result of the season. So nice way to end things as her teammates watch, and that woman, Teruma, stays in front. Okay, top 5 now coming up. What happened here?
So a little flat through Horseshoe there, it looks like. And I think you really want to try and help it get some height, and so that as you're coming off the exit, you can accelerate a bit instead of having to have that, that G lock is almost what we call it, where you hang on the corner as much as you can.
Tatiana Ivanova, 17 career victories on the World Cup. That's tied with Yulia Tobits for the second most among athletes that are active, well in back of Geisenberger. And she picked up as if she was never injured. She got injured in the first weekend of the season, has come back with a victory, another podium performance in the last 3 races. Incredible for this veteran Russian.
Slower start here. It looked really strong and powerful, like she was going for it, but slower start. So we'll see if she can make up that speed on the way down the track now.
Right. When she was at her peak a couple of years ago, Ivanova was putting down consistently among the 3 fastest starts in each of the races.
I mean, to be expected. She's got, what is it, a broken
foot, I believe.
Broken foot, broken ankle, which you're using your foot more than you would expect at the start. You're pushing into those kufins, into the horns.
Okay, great point. To the finish, she will be in the green. She'll end up in the top 5. 54.365 for the run. And let's see, she'll need some help because the final 4 ahead of her are well in front of her, but still, this will be a top 5. So Sam, she comes back from this long injury timeout with a 3rd, a 1st, an 8th, and now no worse than a 5th.
Yeah, that's that great entry shot in Horseshoe that we haven't seen a lot, but it really allows you to see the shape of the corner and how the sleds, some of them are running a bit flat through the middle of that corner where you want to be up high and then allow the sled to accelerate out.
All right, the math is really simple here as this World Cup season winds down to a final event. This woman here, Yulia Tobits, she leads in points, 919 points. If she holds her spot right now, meaning if she moves and is in the lead at the end of this run, she can do no worse than 4th place. That's 60 World Cup points. That will clinch it because she has a 57-point lead over Madeline Egla. So this is for the World Cup overall.
300ths faster at the start, so right away off the bat, she's giving herself some more speed through this top section.
Tobits, originally from the Altenburg area, that's her home. That's a great track. But the stronger program is out of Thuringia in Oberhof, and that is where she has been based in training for her entire career.
She's putting it on right now. The jets are on. The sled is just picking up speed, accelerating through these bottom 4 right corners, now into the final 2 lefts.
79 miles an hour. Yulia Tobits, for the second time in 3 seasons, has officially captured the World Cup overall title. She may not end up on the podium today. That remains to be seen, but with no worse than a 4th place finish here, it's official. No one can catch her.
That was a statement run. She threw down, and now it does. It puts the pressure up on Madeline, and obviously now she knows, maybe Madeline doesn't know right now that it's for the overall, but the podium is worth a lot here today, and that's the pressure's on Madeline and the young Latvian and her teammate, Natalie.
Now for the podium positions that Sam was just talking about. Egla has lost her chance for the World Cup overall. That was a long shot, but she has one more victory this season than the champion Tobits. Egla's won 5 races, Tobits 4, and now looking for another race, another podium in what has been a spectacular season for this still young Austrian. It's the fastest start time. That's a good way to begin things.
Fantastic way to start. And I think just going to feel just like charging. She's going to, a little bit of a bump there on telephone.
How costly will that be with 1,700s
it's tough
in the
to say.
bank?
We'll see. It's See how she handled it through that corner. If she had to give it a big drive, she still got that lead.
Madeleine Egla vying for another race, another podium. She's actually been on the podium 7 consecutive races, so this will be an incredible streak, unmatched in women's luge this year. 8 podiums in a row. She may not win it, but she will come flying into the Olympics in Beijing. One of the hottest lugers in the world on a track where she won the Olympic test event.
Yeah, looking just so good, and that was a perfect run. Even with that little error off of Horseshoe, she just handled it so well, and then from then on, she was flawless.
How about that, Sam? 8 podiums in the final 8 races.
Incredible. And right here, starts it off, just puts her in that mindset. Go get it. Perfect start technique there.
And you noted an early problem. It'd be amazing to think how much bigger that lead would be without it. As it is, it's 1700s. Now our final 2. Alina Vitola won the race, shockingly, last year. In the snow, she moved up the elevator on one of those days where you said, well, she was just kind of lucky in the right spot in run number 2 in the draw. But she backed it up with a second place showing in run number 1 today, Sam. Can she hang on? Usually young athletes feel that pressure when they're in podium position after one run.
And right off the start there, she was a little eager. You could see when she got a bit excited when she was laying down. The sled did a bit of a skid, so that's going to eat some time off right there. You can see already in the red now.
She needs a top 2 down here at the bottom to stay on the podium.
We know these Latvian sleds are running really well today. The gap is widening a bit. Unfortunately, she's falling a bit further behind.
If she can stay in the top 7, it will be her best result of the season. Vitola is on her way to her first Olympic Games. And here she comes to the finish. It will not be enough to take the lead, but it is enough to stay on the podium. 148.456. There is a love affair between this young Latvian and this magical track in St.Moritz, Switzerland.
She's going to be hoping it's on the calendar every year with back-to-back podiums. Incredible.
Incredible how certain athletes, Sam, can do well on certain tracks.
You can just feel it. I mean, there's that issue at the start, a little bit excited and just rushed that lay down a bit. I mean, some tracks you get on it and you mesh with it right away. You feel good about it. You can sort of push the limits. You can push the sled setup. You can feel confident through anything, comfortable through anything, and it makes just a world of difference. And that's what Alina has here in St. Moritz for sure.
Julia Tobitz is the overall World Cup champion. That's been clinched. Madeleine Egla has the lead at the bottom. But here is Natalie Geisenberger. And I said it at the top of the program. You have to go back 13 years, 2008, to find the last season that Geisenberger did not win at least one World Cup race other than the year she took off on maternity leave. Now she looks to win victory number 1 this year and head to the Olympic Games off of a win in search of her three-peat, her 3rd consecutive Olympic gold.
A little bit of a skid there. It sounded like off Horseshoe. That's a big lead that she's got. We'll see if she can hold that the whole way down. She's going to have to be perfect.
She was near perfect in the first run. There were no noticeable mistakes. So let's see how this one translates. Still pretty good, Sam, 1500s.
Yeah. She's got the feeling right now. She's going to let it run.
One more stop of the clock. That's right now. And still exactly to the 1,000th. She lost nothing. She gained nothing. And this will be a win. Victory number 52 in the legendary career of perhaps the greatest athlete in the history of women's luge. Congratulations to Natalie Geisenberger.
Fantastic race and just super result. It's got to feel good. That's the confidence you want going into Beijing.
Can she three-peat? She has been in the shadows of Tobitz and Egla all season long. But she's the one with the Olympic experience.
getting the sponsor time in there. That's a great result for Natalie.
And when she puts on her mask, she has a face mask that says Danke Sepp, and that is in honor of the longtime German physio, Sepp Hornsteiner, who's retiring after the season.
Really nice run for Natalie. And even if that little skid off of Horseshoe, she just handled it well, pushed the rest of the way. Look at that great position going through the corner, coming off the corner, which is great. That's where the sled really accelerates, and she's in perfect position. Whole contingent of great athletes that are now coaching there for the Germans.
Well, we wish Natalie the best of luck as she heads to the Olympic Games. As you see, a decisive victory over Madeleine Egla, who completes her own spectacular season, while Tobitz takes the World Cup overall. Vetter into the top 10, Demchenko just outside, while Natalie Mogg performs on her home track. Another disappointing race, relatively speaking, for the USA, which will need to regroup prior to the Olympic Games. We will not see the United States in their strong discipline, the relay, later today, as they do not have a doubles team fielded this weekend. Well, Sam, Natalie, win number 52. We never thought anyone could approach Armin Zugler's 57 career victories, but Natalie's doing it. Let's be fair. Sort of like the expanded playoffs in professional sports, Natalie's had more opportunities due to the sprint discipline, but still 52 is a hugely impressive number.
Significant number for sure, and just amazing to see how, and it wasn't easy. That was when, in the era when other nations were pushing, it wasn't a cakewalk every week for Natalie, but she was so strong for so many years. It's great to see her back on top of the podium for sure.
And hearkening back to Ken's Olympic picks earlier today, he's got Natalie on top, followed by Egla. Those are the top two today. And what I love about it is it's probably a group of 7 or 8, notwithstanding a David Gleicher type, who are all potential podium winners.
Absolutely.
At the Olympic Games. World Cup standings. Now, these do not involve the sprint. This will not be the overall coming up first, so that's not the math I've been following. And as you said, Sam, that's got Madeleine out in front. By 2 points, Madeleine defeats Julia Tobitz for the World Cup 2-run race standings. That's not your overall, but it is significant because the sprint, take it or leave it. Some people are willing to do one or the other.
Yeah.
But now we'll reset that math and we'll give you the overall World Cup champions in just a second, where I believe Tobitz has taken this by 50 points or so, roughly, when we see the scoreboard. How about that blue sky?
It's just, this is, when I think of St.Moritz, this is what I basically envision every time, because I don't think they do happen. Obviously last year was a snow race, but look at that. It's just stunning weather and a great race to cap off the season, right? And it's sort of something I didn't really talk a lot about it, but this is the last race of the season where in the last World Cup of a quad, which is just, now it's a moment where athletes might be the last time we see them, and might be a final World Cup for an athlete here. So it's just, there's significance behind the scenes that we didn't really get to talk about. It happens so fast.
Yeah, that's a great point. And while we have a little time, and there you have Madeleine Egla capturing the Joska Crystal with the non-sprint points, and then they will show you the Julia Tobitz official victory. You talk about the end of the quad. What that means simply is there'll be some shifting. There'll be some shuffling, Sam. In fact, that legend on your right, Natalie Geisenberger, may be through.
Right. It's you think if she's got one kid and likely maybe wants more, and it's just when's that going to happen? And there's I think she was still so in the game leading into this quad, and she was easily could walk into the three-peat. But I'll let you go through this here.
Yeah, there you have it. It's 32 points, the decisive victory by Tobitz over Egla, not that decisive. And look how close it was between third and fourth. So Germany 1-3-4, continuing its domination in women's luge. And a look at all of those finishers. And these World Cup points, especially that first group of points, will determine start orders at the Olympic Games. Well, to end things here, Natalie Geisenberger is the winner as she heads to the Olympic Games. Sam, we will be watching from afar, but it will be a fun race to watch.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to the games. Great opportunity to just sit back and be a fan. I've enjoyed commentating this year, and it's been a great time, but I'm also just looking forward to watching how it unfolds.
And sleeping in a bit.
Yeah, well, it's such a great experience. It's been fun this past couple weekends, and definitely has me fired up and excited for the Olympics, and I hope everyone out there is as well.
Well, as Julia Tobitz collects her crystal as the World Cup champion for the second time in 3 seasons, thanks so much for all of your contributions all season long. It's been great working with you.
Appreciate it. Glad to be part of it, and looking forward to next year. And yeah, looking forward to the Olympics here in a couple weeks.
One more piece of business to put a wrap on this Eberspecher Luge World Cup season. It's the team relay competition. That's a World Cup title that also is not yet decided. Germany leading the way. They will go last. But we've got that race and plenty of pretty impressive nations still to come before they do. We'll be back in just under an hour for the final race of the season. Until then, for Sam Edney, our producers, Britta and David, and everyone else responsible for this great coverage, I'm Tim Singer. We'll see you next time.
Silbermedaillengewinnerin aus Österreich, Marlene Engle. Wie könnte es anders sein, ist man fast versucht zu sagen. Selbstverständlich kommt sie aus Deutschland, Latvian and Swiss. Das sind die drei Siegerinnen Das Mädel Nicola Schimmer an der Ecke und Nathalie Geisler und dann Europameisterin. Herzliche Gratulation.